Hey y'all, my name is Taylor. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. So today's video I'm going to be sharing some recommendations for some Christian fiction books that are set in the South. So this kind of goes along with some similar themed videos that I'm trying to do for the Southern Charm Readathon. This is during the month of May, so I'm trying to do more videos that kind of center around southernness. I did a video on Southern booktubers that I would recommend, and I also did a Southern Charm Readathon. I did some reading sprints, some different videos related around the readathon, so this is adding to those. And so yeah, I would really love to share some books that I have read. All of these are rated 4 stars and up, and they are all set in the South. And I feel like going into the summer, the South is just the perfect setting to get that summer vibe, because a lot of times it's a little bit hot and humid down here, and that's just the perfect setting to get your summer on, I guess. So I will share these, starting with the quintessential Christian fiction book. This is Christy by Catherine Marshall. I've mentioned it a few times on my channel. This is an OG. There's a mini TV series based after it that I absolutely love, but it is about a young woman who is a teacher, and she volunteers to go teach at a backwoods school in Tennessee, and a part of that is her spreading the word of Jesus. She goes as part of a missions trip, kind of, and these people are not very accepting of outsiders, so she's having to break through some barriers to get to know these people, and also really learning about her own faith as well. So I really highly recommend this. I love this story. Also, a love triangle is in this one. And yeah. Speaking of another book with a love triangle, I have Love and a Little White Lie by Tammy L. Gray. And this book, the cover just says summer to me. I love this cover. I just don't know what it is about it. It's the stars, y'all. I'm a sucker for anything with stars on it, like the starscape. So yeah, anyways, I love this. It is contemporary Christian fiction, and I don't say very often that I rate one of those a 5 stars, but this one I did. This is about January. She moves to Texas, and she interviews for a job at a church, and she is an unbeliever. She's an atheist, and so it is partly her journey into finding faith, but also she meets 2 men, and there is a love triangle. But I don't usually like those, but I think that this author handled it very well, and it was more mild, I guess you could say. It wasn't super drama filled and angsty or anything like that. It was more realistic than anything. But I recommend this, especially for summertime. Hope Between the Pages by Pepper Basham. This is a dual timeline. So there's a timeline set around the early 1900s, think kind of Downton Abbey era, because the main character in that timeline, she is working at Biltmore Estate as a I was about to say a barmaiden. That's not right. A book maiden. So she's basically like the librarian for the 10,000 book library that George Vanderbilt had. The library is real, the character is not. But she was responsible for shelving the books and taking care of them and getting them to guests. And she makes a connection with one of the guests through books, and things kind of take off from there. And then the modern timeline is a descendant that other character. She has a bookshelf that has been in the family for 100 years, but it is in peril because they can't find the deed to it. So she's trying to figure out the history and learning about family history along the way and trying to save the bookshop. So this one I always say is my favorite book with quotes in it because there's so many good ones. I will say about Pepper's books, if you are all sensitive to physical intimacy, she kind of skirts the line for me a tad. So if you're all sensitive to that, just be aware of it. She, it's still clean, like there's no explicit anything, but it does kind of give a little bit more detail than your typical Christian fiction. So just be mindful of that. This is my favorite Pepper book, by the way. If I Run by Terry Blackstock. So this is a very popular Christian suspense novel, and I highly recommend it as like a beginner suspense series. This is about Casey. She is on the run from the police because her friend was murdered, and she believes that she's being framed, and the police will not believe her. So she is on the run from the police and kind of adopting different identities and things like that. And this guy Dylan has been hired by the victim's family to try and find her, and so he's trying to catch up with her, and she's trying to clear her name. And will they meet is the question. So yes, I really love this series. It is a very fast-paced series, so make sure you have all 3 books lined up ready to go. You will need it for sure. And this is a reason why I put it in Southern set, is because the first book is set, a good chunk of it is set in Oklahoma. Another Terry Blackstock book, Last Light, is a part of a 4-book series that is set in Birmingham, Alabama. And this is kind of an apocalyptic type novel. So what happens is that all electrical running objects, anything with the electric current stops working. So planes, cars, TV, internet, anything like that, even generators don't work. So the society is kind of set back to square one, if you will, as far as technology goes. They're trying to figure out how to survive, especially in the Birmingham heat. And it's set around this one specific family. They have several kids at different age points, and so it's their journey to figure out how to survive in this world as a family, and then how to still be Christians and serve the Lord and share the light. The Mark of the King by Jocelyn Green. This is historical romance, and it is about a young woman who is falsely accused, and so she's imprisoned in France, but the French decided that they wanted to send all of the French convicts to populate the colony of New Orleans because it was struggling so bad, and they thought that was an excellent idea, which it was not. So they forced these people to marry, and this is actually based off of a real event in history, and you don't hear about this in the history books. Part of the reason why I love historical fiction, because you learn stuff like this. But this is the fictional account, is about that young woman, and so she is forced to marry. So it's a sort of a marriage of convenience, not really convenience, since she was forced, but her making the best of the situation. And I will say this book does not end up how you think it will at all. So yeah, it is very emotional. There's some trigger warnings in this one, so if you are interested in knowing what those are, you can check out my Goodreads review. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it had just phenomenal faith. One of my top favorite books of last year. So the next ones I don't have physical copies for. So the first one I have is The Librarian of Boone's Hollow by Kim Vogel Sawyer. This one is a historical romance set in Kentucky, about a young woman who was going to college, but her family falls on hard times because of the Depression, and so she gets a job at the Packhorse Librarian site, I guess you could say, in Kentucky, in a small town. And it kind of gives similar vibes to Christy, like meaning it's like a backwoods town, like they don't really take outsiders well, and Yeah, so I highly recommend that one. It's very interesting. I love the Pack Horse Librarian part of history. And yeah, it's also a love story. Authentically Izzy by Pepper Basham. This one is about a young woman who, it's contemporary fiction. It's about a young woman who, her cousin, yeah, I think it's her cousin, sets her up with a dating account, and she meets this guy for the dating account, and she thinks it's her cousin the whole time, and so she just kind of lets it all out and just about is herself, and this guy is interested in her, and so they end up meeting, and he is actually from this fictional island called Skamar, and it is kind of a mixture of Scottish and British culture, so it's like this fictional island that's like very beautiful and has all the accents and like all the history and things. And so this love story is an epistolary novel, so it's written mostly in text messages and emails, and then as you get closer towards the end of the book, it kind of takes over with like your normal style of writing. So something to keep in mind. I would recommend the audiobook if you listen to it and read it at the same time. Might be helpful. Fragile Designs by Colleen Coble. This is a Christian suspense novel as well. I read it earlier this year, and it is a standalone, so that's super nice. But it's about this young woman. I think her name is Casey. I forget her name. I'm not good with names. I'm impressed that I remembered as much as I did. But anyways, about a young woman who her husband is found dead in their home, and she runs across some items in her attic that may be of some value, and so it makes her question whether her husband took his own life or not. And so it is her trying to figure out what the items are and how much they're worth, and there's some family mystery involved in there as well, and it's a love story, and it's set in Beaufort, South Carolina, and I really enjoyed it. I think I rated it 4 stars. So those were 9 books that I personally have read and would recommend, but I wanted to give you an even number, so I'm going to mention one more to make it 10. So I'm currently reading Collateral Damage by Lynette Eason, and this is the first book in the Danger Never Sleeps series. It is about 2 veterans, and one of them is Brooke Adams. She is a former military psychiatrist, and the other one is former Army Special Ops Sergeant First Class Asher James, and it sounds like he has some PTSD symptoms going on, so he's not able to sleep, so he makes an appointment with Brooke, the psychiatrist, and when he shows up to the appointment, there's a dead body, and Asher thinks it's supposed to be her, so they're trying to figure out what happened. So yeah, so I'm very curious to see what's going on with it, but it is, the reason why I mentioned it in this book, in this series, in this video is because it is set mostly in Greenville, South Carolina. So thought it would be a good one to add. If you read it, please let me know your thoughts. And also, if you would let us know in the comments any books that you would recommend that are set in the South. I would love to know. I enjoy adding books that y'all recommend to my TBR. So I would love to hear those and chat with you in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye, y'all.